Hello, everybody. And on behalf of the All-Star Football Officials Association Training Committee, I'd like to welcome you to our first training video for the 2022 season. This video itself is going to be pretty quick. It's only about 6 slides, I believe. And we're just basically going to go over the new rules and interpretations, clarification for this 2022 season. So it should be nice, quick, easy, painless. Won't be any videos involved with it, but just something you and your crew can use during your first pregame, first couple weeks, just to make sure you familiarize yourself with the new rules and make sure we don't miss anything during the game. So let's go ahead and jump right in. So the first rule we want to talk about was the change to intentional grounding, which added an exception. So obviously this has been something that's been talked about the last couple of years. Coaches always seem to think it was a rule anyway, because they watch college and professional. So this new exception lines up the National Federation with NCAA and the NFL. So basically what it boils down to is exception will now allow for a player, passer, to legally ground a ball, provided that the passer is outside of the pocket. And remember, the Federation won't have a tackle box. We use the free blocking zone, but it's pretty much tackle to tackle. You know, it's defined by yardage and not necessarily tackle to tackle. So keep that in mind. I know Georgia High School and some others have done some things to help officials spotting the ball, so it helps referees recognize whether they're inside or outside of the free blocking zone, stuff like that. But biggest thing here is, as long as that passer is outside of the free blocking zone and the ball reaches the neutral zone, and again, that neutral zone, we say reaches, if it gets to it, let's not be too technical. You know, if it drops a foot short, he got it there. But again, biggest thing with this is we still got the tools in the bag to help us. Always remember, if there's a receiver in the area, none of this matters. So if you have 88 goes out for a pass, quarterback's looking his way, throws it, gets within a few yards of them, I remember we have discretion as officials to come in and say, look, whether or not that ball went past the line of scrimmage, he was outside of the pocket, none of that matters because we had a receiver in the area. So let's always go to that first. And if it's not there, then we can fall back on this right here, which allows, again, outside of, it's pretty much going to be entirely the referee's call here, outside of the free blocking zone. And then ball has to get to or beyond the neutral zone. And remember, that goes on forever. So let's say quarterback scrambles, runs to his right, throws the ball goes out of bounds, I don't know, towards the sideline, 5 yards behind the neutral zone. But by the time the ball lands or would have landed, it would have been well beyond the neutral zone. So again, don't let the coaches tell you, well, the ball crossed out of bounds right here. None of that matters. It only matters where the ball either lands or could have potentially landed if it's unhindered by a player or something over there in relationship to the neutral zone. So keep that in mind. Line judge, remember, you're responsible for holding the line of scrimmage and ruling on that. Referee scrambling around. But also head linesman if you're holding as well. Say the line judge gets pressured and he falls back and he doesn't really know the pass is thrown. It's got a lot going on and he didn't really notice whether it got back to the line of scrimmage or not. Let's make sure that we've got eyes on that. And anytime we see the quarterback scramble outside the pocket, just have your antennas up and be looking for that, or at least aware of the potential for that happening. So again, crew call, just like it was last year without this exception to it, where we're looking for a receiver in the area, all that. Don't just drop the flag, referees, because we think it is. Let's get all the information we need from all the relevant parties, all the officials involved. Find your spot. If he come to you, we're good to go. And we move on to the next down. But if we get the information, he either wasn't outside the pocket or the ball didn't get past the neutral zone, one of those two, then we can discuss dropping a flag and having intentional grounding. Remember, the penalty is still the same if we have intentional grounding 5 yards from the spot. loss of down, none of that changed. So very important. Let's make sure we're having those discussions early on in the season. Some crews, you won't see it all year. Some crews, I guarantee you somewhere in the state it's going to happen the first series of a game, if not the very first scrimmage play of the game. So keep that in mind. Always have this discussion pregame about who's holding, who's looking for what, and making sure that this is a crew call. Also remember too, as we get towards the goal line, we're using goal line mechanics at the 7. We're busting in. We've got both wings at the goal line, and maybe something happens. We got to have some communication there because it's going to be tough to tell. First of all, remember where the line of scrimmage was and know all that if he's throwing it out of bounds. And we've got officials out of position. So again, communication very important. Just remember that when we get in funky situations down by the goal line. And again, if you don't know, don't guess. Don't make it a foul. If you're not for certain, if you're not absolutely certain that it was a foul, and you got to guess and make it legal. Please don't put a intentional grounding on something that we go back and look later wasn't. If you don't know, don't guess and make it legal, please. All right, next rule change we want to talk about, and it's more of a clarification of a definition, is a chop block. So remember last year we had the rule, chop block was defined as a combination block, 2 more teammates against an opponent, with or without delay. Last year it was 1 with a high component, so he's blocking above the waist, and the other used to have to be below the knee. So all they did was change that this year to say, one high component, the other is now just the waist or below. Again, used to have to be below the knee, now it's below the waist. Not really change how we officiate much. I don't know that in my however many years I've been officiating that I've seen a chop block called and the decision, was ever, was it above the knee or was it below the knee, that kind of thing. It always, if it looks really bad, usually it is. It's that guy cutting low. So it just takes out the kind of doubt of, was it above the knee? This time, if it looks like a duck, it is a foul. So if it looks bad and you're not sure, it doesn't matter at this point. Hey, we had 1 above, 1 below. That's all we need to know, and we move on from there. All right, so next rule change we want to talk about, and more of an interpretation. So this year, as opposed to last year, we have fouls under 2 minutes. So they changed a few years ago to say, I remember that the offended team, if there was a foul with less than 2 minutes remaining in either half, the offended team could choose, if by rule the clock was going to start on the ready for play, they could choose to have the clock start on the snap. But in order to do that, they had to accept the penalty. That changed this year, clarification. Now they do not have to accept the penalty. Very important. And it could potentially give the offended team an extra opportunity at another possession. And it keeps the offense from fouling, doing stuff like that, where all they want to do is, accept the foul, that's fine, replay the down. But it doesn't matter because they took time off the clock and that's what they wanted to do. So this helps alleviate that. So just remember, it's very important. Clock's always a pet peeve of mine. I always want to make sure we get that right. But just remember, just also add to the 2 minute timing here is that if we have a foul, offer the offended team that option. Now, assuming it's because the foul's starting on the ready for play. If by rule it's starting on the snap, it's starting on the snap. There's nothing they can do about it. But let's say, for instance, 3rd down, under 2 minutes, the offensive team holds. They tackle the quarterback. They sack the quarterback for a loss anyway. We stop the clock for a foul. So by rule, he got sacked inbounds. It would have been running on the ready for play. They're out of timeouts, whatever. It doesn't matter. So would have been running on the ready for play. Now, obviously, what they want to do is decline the penalty to get the 4th down because they'd rather have the down count and get the advantage of the clock. So they'll decline the penalty, but the coach will tell you, look, we want to decline the penalty, but we want the clock to start on the snap. So that makes the offense run a fourth down play in this particular situation, as opposed to, well, they had to pick if they wanted the clock to start on the snap, they're fine, but then you replay the down, so you really put yourself in the exact same situation you were in the play before, and the offense got the advantage of those couple seconds that run off during the previous play. So this helps alleviate some of that. Just remember that under 2 minutes, a lot going on. We're trying to get things done, a lot of pressure depending on the score of the game. So just make sure somebody on that crew knows if that option's out there, it's available, that we offer that to the offended coach. All right, another clock situation they've clarified. So the exception to the 25-second play clock after a penalty, they added a little nuance in there. So if the reason we stopped the clock was to administer a defensive penalty, so let's say second down, 2nd and 10, downfield, pass interference, whatever, it doesn't matter. It's some kind of holding, whatever, downfield, pass interference, let's say. So march it off 15 yards, resulted in a first down, 2nd 10, so we got 15, that gave him a first. Now, because the only reason we stopped the clock was to administer, well, obviously for the incomplete pass, but because we're administering a defensive foul, again, doesn't matter, kind of like the last one, doesn't matter whether they accept it or decline it. If the defense fouled, we're putting 40 second, we're giving a 40-second play clock to the offense for the next play. So this is going to be a tough one. This is going to be tricky. All the play clock operators are used to just, after we're administering a penalty, 25. Coaches are used to it. Players have been used to it. It's been this way forever. So it's going to take a little bit getting used to. So field judge, back judge if we're doing 7, whoever's responsible for the clock, play clock operators, referees before you put it in play. Let's make sure we're on the same page here. Somebody on the crew, even if it's, I would suggest not the field judge or back judge, they should know this, but somebody always double check. Hey, we just marked off a foul on the defense. Somebody take a look up. We're at 25. Hey, stop. Hey, let the referee know to pump it to 40. Go to 40, and we go from there. So this won't be a big deal in the middle of the first quarter. But just remember, if we get real tight at the end of games, the reason this change was made was because defenses found ways to take advantage where they could potentially commit a foul to get those extra 15 seconds. And just like I mentioned the last play, it could create a situation where the offense, all they had to do was take a knee, but because it was 25 and not a 40-second play clock, now they were forced to run a play on 4th down, punt, give the defense a chance at an extra possession they didn't necessarily do anything to earn. So just remember that. Make sure whoever's responsible for the play clock knows that. Whoever's running the play clock knows that. Referee knows that. Have somebody that's always there double checking it. At least asking the question. He may say, hey, shouldn't this be 40? And go, no, that was on the offense, be 25. But either way, let's just make sure we remind ourselves probably every game this year just to double check, because this is going to be something we're going to have to remember and talk about every game. So finally, last thing I want to talk about, last and absolutely least in terms of importance, just some clarifications they put in. So players can now wear the number 0. So if a player comes out and he has jersey number 0, that's fine. But remember, they can't have 00, and they can't be 07 or 09 or something like that. So numbers go now from 0 to 99. No 00 and no 0, whatever. So that takes care of that. It has nothing to do with us. Do not worry about that, but there it is. A little bit bigger issue is the team boxes. Remember that in Georgia high school, Georgia adopted that this year. The team box can go all the way down to the 10-yard line. Remember, it's got to be the same on both sides. So the 10-yard line, if that's what they want, especially some of these fields where we don't have a track, we're real tight on the sideline. But remember that the coach's box still goes 25 to 25. So if a coach is outside of that 25 to 25 area, he is not supposed to be there. I'll just put it that way. So that's why I emphasize in this slide, not coaches. Coaches still have to coach within that coach's box. That extra space is for other team personnel, trainers, doctors, stuff that can be out of the way that really has no bearing on the game as the game goes along. But if we start allowing coaches to get down and players to get down to the 10 and start subbing from the 10-yard line, you could create a real advantage there for an offense trying to hurry up and get a jumbo set or goal line set up there, doing it from there, and coaches can react to it, as opposed to the other team that's following the rules from the 25. They've got extra space to cover, so they're at a disadvantage. So just remember that. Some schools will do it, some schools won't, but just remember, let the coaches know they have to stay where they've always been, and we'll leave it at that. But other than that, that's all I have. Again, hopefully short 16, 17-minute video, whatever this is. Good luck this season, guys. Again, please make sure we're reviewing these rule changes, and best of luck this year. And hopefully I'll get a few more of these videos out once we start getting some film in, and we'll go from there. Thank you.